for a look at the latest business stories with Kate Moody. Hi there, Kate.
Hi, Catherine.
And we're starting out with Russia, which is looking to partially compensate for the embargo on Western food products by boosting its trade with other countries.
Yeah, and Egypt is top of that list at the moment. President Vladimir Putin has been meeting with his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Sochi, where he said that Moscow would welcome more Egyptian imports while increasing its own grain exports to Egypt this year. Russia's agriculture minister also said that agricultural imports from Egypt could be doubled. He said imports from Brazil as well would be stepped up. 100 Brazilian food producers have received permission to export to the Russian market over the past week. Now, last week, Russia imposed a one-year ban on imports of meat, fish, dairy, fruit and vegetables from the United States, the EU, Canada, Australia and Norway. This in retaliation for sanctions over the Ukraine crisis. Now, on Monday, the European Union announced that it would be taking steps to help its peach and nectarine farmers, whose crops have already been affected by bad weather conditions this summer and who are now suffering the effects of Russia's embargo. Producers in Greece, Spain, France and Italy will likely be given extra funds for marketing, as well as more government compensation for unsold fruit. But for some farmers here in France, those measures are too little, too late. Haxie Myers-Belkin has the details.
Harvest season is well underway, and the EU's announcement has arrived too late for some. In the orchards of the French Drôme region, new measures to support the peach industry have confused producers.
I don't think they'll be effective at all. They won't change anything for French producers.
Régis Aubarneau employs 40 seasonal workers. This year he's facing fierce competition from Spain, where labour is 50% cheaper. The result? The price he gets for his fruit isn't enough to cover costs.
This costs €1.30 for us to produce. That's €1.30 not counting everything that comes after. And the market is happy to pay us €1 per peach, but no more than that, which means that right now I'm losing money. I'm working but losing money, and I've been losing money since the beginning of July.
Up till now, the EU has provided compensation for up to 5% of all unsold fruit. That will be increased to 10%. Excess goods would be given to charitable organisations, but for industry professionals, that's just not enough.
The scope is extremely limited because we're talking about perishable products, so there needs to be a fast-acting infrastructure behind all this. But the Commission's measures don't respond directly to the peach and nectarine crisis.
Early summer's bad weather, the influx of cheap Spanish fruit, and now the Russian embargo on Western imports, the French peach and nectarine industry has a lot to contend with.
Now, the ongoing tensions between the West and Russia are already taking a heavy toll in Germany, where consumer confidence has been dragged to a 2-year low. The ZEW survey of investor expectations showed that sentiment had plummeted to 8.6 points in August. That's less than a third of July's reading of around 27 points. Analysts had expected a much more modest drop to about 18. The fallout was mostly related to concerns about Germany's export-oriented sectors, which are being limited by sanctions against Moscow. The economy ministry said that it's a sign that overall growth in Germany could slow more than expected this year. Now, that weaker than expected data from Germany also weighed on the markets. The DAX closed down over 1%. London and Paris also ended the trading session in the red. Investors concerned that any slowdown in German growth would impact the overall health of the European economy. That negative trend is continuing on Wall Street as well. The major indices recording some minor losses so far. No big domestic data is moving the U.S. markets, so that geopolitical concern about Russia and Ukraine, as well as the downturn in German confidence, are the major forces of the day there in the U.S. Let's turn to some of the day's other business headlines now. The world's largest tobacco company, Philip Morris, is preparing to sue the British government if it passes a law requiring cigarettes to be sold in plain packages, with graphic health warnings and no branding. The maker of Marlboro and other cigarettes said it would seek fair compensation should its branding be affected. Philip Morris is already suing the Australian government over a similar law. Google and 5 Asian telecoms firms are joining forces to build a trans-Pacific cable network connecting the United States to Japan. They'll invest $300 million in the cable, which will be called Faster and could be operational by mid-2016. And Russia has said it will not pay France for 2 warships it's building until both of them are delivered. Countries signed a €1.2 billion contract for the Mistral helicopter carriers in June 2011, and Paris has insisted it will go ahead with the deal despite rising tensions and Western sanctions against Moscow. The two ships are set to be delivered in November of next year. That's all the business news for now. Do stay tuned to France 24.